Welcome to the newest dialogue in politics, community news, human interest stories, entertainment, and information from Eastern North Carolina. Janet Conner-Knox is an award-winning journalist with more than 25 years experience in print, radio, and television. This is Talking with Janet.
Hi, I'm Janet Conner-Knox, and this is Talking with Janet. We have a program today to talk to some of the civil rights organizations that exist. Ever since we can remember, we've been hearing about the SCLC and the NAACP. So we have representatives from the SCLC and the NAACP here today to talk about, in reference to all that's going on, all the racial tensions that's going on with police and African American males and the shootings that are taking place. Is their organization relevant anymore? What do they seek to do? We're going to introduce you to, from the SCLC, the Field Secretary, Dr. William MERRITT, and from the NAACP of Wilson, RICARDO DEW. And the SCLC was established in 1957. Dr. Martin Luther King the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was elected president. The NAACP, that was formed in 1909. And is celebrating 107 years of freedom. And I'd just like to say that because there's been the controversy over the NAACP and all of that, how it was started on some talk shows, but the NAACP was not started just by African Americans. It was started by white people. White people continue to be a member of the NAACP. And the SCLC, I don't know, but I do know that they partnered with SNCC, and SNCC had biracial and multicultural people as part of their organization. I'd like to begin by talking with both of you about how relevant your organizations are or are not now in 2016. We grew up hearing those names. We grew up seeing the marches, and there's no kid who hasn't seen it in their little history book. Those are the two organizations you do get to read about as an African American in school. Those history books are blank when it comes down to our history. NAACP, SCLC, are they relevant today?
Well, first of all,
Dr. MERRITT.
Well, thank you.
Dr. William MERRITT.
Thank you for having me on your show, number one, and having the opportunity to express some reference points as it relates to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of North Carolina, which I serve as Field Secretary. But the organization actually started at the Southern Colored Leadership Conference. And it was changed to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference because they wanted to be more encompassing of people other than just colored people. So the SCLC, from its inception, had a base of religion as its format and as its focal point. And so Godlike was the efforts that Dr. King, as its first president, wanted to promote. As to your question about the relevancy of the SCLC now, we struggle with that. Unfortunately, I was always told if you can't, as a person, identify that you have a problem, others will see it for you. So I would say that the SCLC, from our national office in Atlanta to our local state here in Greenville, and also to our chapters throughout the state, we do look to how can we fit the times. The days of Dr. King are gone, but they're still here. And we're still suffering from the same ills that Dr. King and others marched, boycotted, went to jail for. And so, have we made the changes? I think the question is still out there to be answered.
Okay. Is NAACP?
Yes, and well, like I said, the NAACP was started in 1909, and like I said, it was started by the whites, but liberals kind of got together because they were concerned about the crime that was being committed to on African Americans. They was concerned about the lynching of African Americans. So that was the start of it. So if you look at the start of it and when it started and some of the main reasons that it started, and then you fast forward to today and look at it, and they are calling the shootings that is going on now by police officers, they're calling it a modern day lynching. So if you look at it and go back and look at what was started, why one of the reasons that the NAACP was started, we have not been as effective as probably that we were when it first started. It's not, you know, we're good at getting out there out front, getting out in the public, getting things started. But when it comes to making sure that we get the justice that is deserving, we seem to be lacking in that.
When you look at, and both of you being black males, I know you know what to do if you're ever stopped for police, if you're ever stopped by a police officer, and we tend to teach that, you know, to our young people. Yeah. This is what you should do. And it sounds a lot like Jim Crow. Bow your head. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're not allowed to do it. They're saying, they're warning young African American men, I believe you said, to take your wallet out of your back pocket.
Right.
You have to conduct your life in a particular way in preparation. Am I correct?
Yeah. They said to take your not to ride with your wallet in your back pocket. Take your ID out and everything and put it on the dash so that it will be easily presented. And you know, so why would we need to change our entire way of living just to make sure that we get home safely when we live in a society that says everybody's equal?
Well, I guess everybody's not equal then. Huh?
Well, I think we have to be fair to the overall process of being stopped by the police or encountering an authority of any sort. I have instructed my sons when they were growing up and when they were driving, carry yourself in the proper manner, not only when you're driving, but when you're dealing with anyone. Myself personally, when I normally travel, I don't travel in sweats. I travel as I'm dressed now. And when an officer approaches me, generally I get the respect from the beginning. I shouldn't have to wear a certain attire to get respect, but I do understand from being part of the military, if you're in a war zone, you tend to sometimes dehumanize the people you feel you're at war with. And unfortunately, I think our country has gotten into a position to where police officers may see young black males as a potential enemy. And with that comes a certain air of, I want to go home that night, and you may be preventing that. And so then you err by taking matters and doing things that are not part of the training, but it's a human nature thing that I'm going to survive by any means necessary. So some of the actions that I think occur when you have officer-involved shootings is it's subconscious, not a conscious thought. Not to say it's right by any means, but I think it's more so that people are conditioned from birth to see African American males in a different light than they may see other males.
Well, thank you. We're going to commercial. We'll be right back.
I did something terrible. I don't know what I was thinking.
This is dangerous.
I'm begging you, don't hurt me.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Valentina, you're beautiful, 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 beautiful.
We're back with Dr. William MERRITT and Mr. RICARDO DEW from the SCLC and the NAACP. And you were saying that there's this fear, we were saying on break that there's a fear of African American men. What is the fear from? What is it about? Well, before we do that, talking about the fear, that's the fear you're saying police officers feel when they come in contact with some of our young boys. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. So I think it's just a fear that has been embedded in them from birth, from years and years, because that was one of the things that they did to keep things separated. They used to tell them, "Don't mess with them. You know, they'll hurt you," or keep away from our women, and things like that. Because even now they've had, even recently, what was it? Was it in New Jersey, where the man said that they was coming over selling drugs, and before they left, they was raping the women.
Oh boy. Okay.
You remember that?
I don't.
It's been a while, but that's
Okay.
So it's just a fear that's embedded in them that the black males are just dangerous.
And I want to reference something, because in fairness, and I think too often we blanket things. We make the assumption that everyone is like that. I do believe there are more good cops than bad. I do believe that.
I think everyone believes
I
that.
do
Yes.
believe
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
And
I think that goes without saying. I think most people believe.
But the
there
problem
are.
is, it doesn't take but one bad apple to spoil a whole force. And so I think what happens is that we don't give credit enough to the people who do a good job, who want to be a police and who want to be a fair policeman. And so that code of blue tends to make allotments or make exception for the bad police officers, because it's code blue. You have to walk a certain line.
Yeah.
Well, I think I want to ask you then, if I be a good journalist and I'm sitting beside someone who is not a good journalist, should I not say, you know what, you're not a good journalist? And if someone asks me, should I not admit that there are some journalists that are not good journalists? And if that is the case, if it's expected of me, if it's expected of teachers, why don't we see more officers? And I agree that there are lots of good officers out there. Why aren't officers standing up and going, nope? There was we don't hear that. We don't hear officers saying, no, we're not going to stand for that.
Yeah, and I think, when you work with people, if you're working beside somebody, if you're working with somebody as a co-worker, eventually you know them, whether they express it or not, but you will know if this person is somebody that will go out and beat somebody for no reason at all. Over a period of time, you get to know this person on a different level. So if you know this person and you know that he don't seem to be a fit for the police department, that he may go out and do something like that, then it's time to speak up. And that seems to be the biggest problem. But if they go speak up, then what is the consequences for them? What do they face for speaking up about something that just don't seem right?
I think the example to that, though, is magnified by what happened in Charlotte, where a young man was shot and killed by a white police officer. I believe 14 shots. He was shot 14 times. There were two other officers on the scene. Both of those officers were African Americans. Neither one of the African American officers pulled their pistol or their taser. The gentleman who was the officer that did kill the young man said he feared for his life. So why didn't the black officers fear for their lives, and why would they testify for that officer if they felt that this officer was just using that as justification? So I think we go back to the code blue mentalities, that when people become part of an organization like a club or in the military or whatever, it's difficult, if not impossible, for you to go against one of your own.
I think that I have to establish this now. Chief Thomas Hopkins of the Wilson Police, he's the chief of police here, is very responsive when anything goes wrong with one of his officers. I know personally that if you give him a call, if you tell him what has happened, he will attend to it immediately. And so while Chief Hopkins can't be responsible for everybody's behavior 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I know that he is the kind of responsible chief that will say, no, not on my force. And we want to take the time take this moment to commend him for that. But we can't say that other people across the country have had that same experience when they have had a problem from any police force. Let me read this for you. I think it's pretty interesting. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration issued a travel advisory for Bahamians traveling to the United States of America. Now, normally we hear about travel advisories when you're going to Europe or you're going to other places and they go, beware. This is from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration issuing a travel advisory for Bahamians traveling to the United States of America. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration has taken a note of the recent tensions in some American cities over shootings of young black males by police officers. We wish to advise all Bahamians traveling to the U.S., but especially to the affected cities, to exercise appropriate caution generally. In particular, young males are asked to exercise extreme caution in affected cities and their interactions with police. Do not be confrontational and cooperate. That's basically saying be careful if you're black and Bahamians are black and you're coming to the United States. Be careful.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
We've had that. We hear that warning for Americans traveling outside. They say Americans that are traveling outside. They don't.
Yes.
They don't specify, a certain race or a certain gender. But now we're getting it coming back to us now. If you're a black male, be very careful when you travel to the U.S. because there is so much tension. There is so many blacks that are being killed by police officers, and they are unarmed and for no reason. So they're asking them to be very, very careful when they come to the U.S.
Is that scary?
So that's truly scary, because now other countries are looking at us to say, hey, there is something wrong in the United States, and it's time that we figure out and address what it is. It's going to be hurtful.
We live in this America. We believe, we're the land of the free and the home of the brave. And so we see that, be careful when you go over there. They're blowing up places. Be careful. But when it's like, be careful coming here. And we'll come back. They're telling me it's time for commercial. We'll come back. Tell me if you're shocked by what you just heard. We'll be right back with Talking with Janet.
Why are you here?
Just want to shoot some hoops.
I want to know why you're being all distant.
I just have things on my mind.
What things?
I don't want to talk about it.
We don't keep secrets.
I'm sorry, I tried to stop it.
I have to talk to you. It's an emergency. I'm kind of freaking out right now. I mean, I'm a man. I should have been able to stop it, and I couldn't. What happened? All I know is that it was something bad. What the hell is wrong with you?
I believe something happened. Just don't know what.
I would never cheat on her. I never hurt her. Can you imagine the ridicule and embarrassment I had to go through?
We're back again with Talking with Janet. I'm your host, Janet Conner-Knox, and with me is Dr. William Merritt from the SCLC and Wilson advocate and member of the NAACP, RICARDO DEW. Dr. Merritt, were you shocked when you heard what the ministry had to tell, the warning to the people coming from the Bahamas to the United States? Were you shocked by that?
That is very shocking. I wonder, by no means is one murder or officer-involved shooting too many, because one is too many. And the number that we've had in our country just in the last few days is what's so shocking to me. And what happened in Dallas is even equally shocking, because it's not right to take an officer to take a life of two young men that happened in those cases. In light terms, the young man who took the lives of those officers. But to people who are looking from the outside, I could see how that would be
alarming to them.
Alarming to them, very much so.
And since those two shootings, wasn't there one in Houston?
There was another
Yeah.
shooting
Yeah.
just the other night in Houston.
Yes. Well,
so in less than a week's time, there's actually supposedly there were two other incidents that hadn't got national attention. So actually, it was that's 5 in 1 week, and that's really that's alarming. That's scary.
Well, there's one website that has a ticker. And for every time somebody's killed, they show it. And we're at 560 some odd African American men killed last year, over 1,100, like 1,134, I believe, African American killed by. And we want to say from the very open, we know there are people who deserve to go to prison, who deserve to be in handcuffs, who deserve to go to trial. You know, we understand that the job of being a police officer obviously it's not that easy.
It's a very difficult job.
It's a very difficult job. But we also understand they signed up for that job.
They did.
And they're supposed to de-escalate things and not, cause things. So
I think Camden, New Jersey is using an example, and homicide is down by 80%.
Yeah.
And Camden, New Jersey is, of course, the home of Campbell Soup. And
used to be.
Used to be. But the police chief the police chief there, they actually had a young man that had a knife, and the police surrounded him, followed him for about 4 or 5 blocks, and was able to subdue him, and never once was a shot fired. And so people in that community is seeing police officers doing community policing. When I grew up, police officers were your friends. My best friend was a police officer, and when he would come by, my kids would get in the police car and turn on the siren, and they loved this guy. And I think if we're able to create relationships, I think this is a good entree to where this should be. Is what do we do? What do we do as a civil rights organization to help this matter and not acerbate it?
Yeah. Well, then policing was done, like I said, neighborhood policing, because they came from your neighborhood, but now they come from all over the country to one town just to be a police officer. So they have no skin in the game in a neighborhood. So that alone, they don't know the people, they don't know the situation, they don't know the town, they don't know what is actually going on. All they know is they fear for whatever happens.
Well, my experience growing up was not the same as you guys. I grew up in Philadelphia, and police officers routinely beat up people there as well. We had something called the Rizzo Raiders, and so.
I grew up in the city that had half the police department was African American. So,
okay, well,
and we had some decent police chiefs at that time, but I know Philadelphia had some.
Philadelphia was a really rough town, and so and from where I sit, there has always. I'm really, really happy about the chief here in Wilson, because I do feel like I can go to him if I have a problem. But the question becomes, what do young people do now? What do you guys do? What do your organizations do now to help these young guys so that they can come home to their parents?
Well, the SCLC has a training component that we work with departments. Atlanta was one that we've worked with, in Mayor Andrew Young, former Mayor Andrew Young, was on television the other night saying that the Atlanta Police Department was better trained than most. And so I think the trainings that departments get from African American led organizations or groups could be more beneficial than maybe some of the training that they get. I'm not scrutinizing what they do receive in training, but I think that when I know I have a better relationship with folks when I get to know them than I do for people who I don't know.
Well, do you think that police and sheriff's offices are open to having the SCLC and the NAACP come in? Would it be like, oh, who do they think they are, coming and sticking their nose in our business? Do you think that? Do you feel comfortable that could happen?
I think now with all this that's going on now, I truly believe that maybe they will be more receptive of that, and that's what we need to do. We need, as an organization, as the NAACP, especially here in Wilson, before things really get out of control, those are some of the things that we do need to do. We do need to have an educational program or something to teach these younger people about law enforcement, about what you need to do, about the criminal justice system, about how to help them navigate through it, because you have a lot of people who don't know what is going on, and for that reason they get charges that never should have happened.
Well, and also too, Ms. Knox, one of the things I think that we need to encourage our young males to do is join the force. We need to, I guarantee you, every police force, sheriff department throughout the nation is striving to enlist minorities.
So then would they then be on the force and then get silent when they see it happening? I mean, you know,
the problem
there has to be
blue line,
code blue.
Right.
Okay, and in addition to that, we're talking about, I mean, what can we do now? What can you guys do now that would help now, today, these young men who are going to be got to go to the store for their mother, got to go and pick up something, got to go to work. What do you do now to help these people, to help this relationship?
Well, that's a $1,000 question.
Yes, it is.
That's a $1,000 question.
It depends on how. That depends really on these younger people. How much do they want to know? How much do they respect others and themselves to actually want to get involved in something that will help them? So
you're waiting on young people to come to you.
We can't wait. We cannot wait. We have to go out and we have to go out and actually just ask these young people. Say, what is it that is going on with you? What do you need? What do you want from us as an organization? What do you want from us as as parents?
So is that what your
I think what we're going to do at convention, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference at convention, I think we had a program called Stop the Killing, and it was a national approach back in the 80s when black on black crime was just really out of control. And what we want to do, I think, is that we want to urge that we create academies throughout our communities that help educate people of color, rights, responsibilities, and in turn, like terms, is to involve law enforcement with those academies so that officers on the off-duty time can have a relationship with young men and women. I think the more interaction that you have in a non-threatening manner, the better relationships become.
Well, this has gone by way too fast because they're telling me to end the show. How do young people get in contact with you guys? What do you do? Like somebody, you know what? Then I'm going to see if this is, somebody's grandmother or somebody's going to say, I'm going to see if this is really true. I'm going to see if these organizations care about us. How would someone get in contact with these organizations?
Okay, well, as I said, we're the NAACP, and our branch is the 5470. The president is Mary Joyner, and we have a vice president who is Arthur Johnson. I'm not going to give you their number because I'm not sure how they will accept that.
When do you meet?
We meet every first Thursday of the month, and we meet in Ventura East in the Bradford Center, which is on Howard Jones Court.
Okay. And so organizations all over the state can call the state NAACP and find out where?
They should. They should be able to call the state and find out how to get in touch with the president here. But come out to the meetings, join the branch, and if you have concerns, you say we're not doing anything, if you don't see nothing being done, come out and join and do something. Help us do something.
Okay.
Well, as field secretary for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of North Carolina, our president, Brother Benny Roundtree, is in Greenville. Our headquarters is in Greenville. But as field secretary, it's my job to be available. So you can call me directly. My number is 919-308-7383. Or you can email us at sclcstateofnc@aol.com.
Okay, let's see how many calls you guys get.
Hey.
And let's meet again and talk about what we do. We thank you. I thank you very much. RICARDO DEW, NAACP, Dr. William Merritt from the SCLC. We thank you very much for even having this conversation and letting people know that you care. We thank you. We think that one of the other things you can do, if you're over 18, register and vote. Know who the candidates are. Do your research. You can get on your phone. Young people, you get on your phones all the time. You look up everything and anything that you're excited about. Look up the candidates. See who they are. See who's saying what you want to say. If the organizations in our neighborhoods are not doing what you think they should, go and tell them that they're not, and come with some answers or some solutions, and be able to work together. We thank you for watching Talking with Janet. We hope that you learned something in this exchange, and if you have something that you'd like to let me know, please get in contact with us. Thank you for watching Talking with Janet. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Talking with Janet, please contact us by email, brothersideent@gmail.com. Leave your name and contact information. Without that, your guest will not be considered.
This has been a Brotherside Entertainment production.